what can happen, and I've seen this happen, is that we can get too focused on accumulating metrics and you're not focused enough on making good content that serves your audience. The show can really lose its soul. Welcome to a new video in our show host series. I'm Christine Baird, owner of Worthful Media. We're in our studios in Salt Lake City. And I want to talk today about something that I heard just last week in an email. And I was like, this is totally the case with personal brands who make podcasts and YouTube shows right now. That's our specialty at Worthful Media. So I spend all my work time thinking about how can I help show hosts make better shows that build their businesses and do good in the world and make a good impact and be sustainable and all the things we aspire to. And the quote that I heard that really hit home for me was from Jennifer Armburst. And she said, accumulation is not the same thing as abundance. Now, this is good advice for life. Like, you can apply this to so many things in your life, but I'm specifically going to talk about how this relates to making podcasts and YouTube shows for personal brands. Because what I have seen over the last 9 years working in this industry, making a bunch of really cool shows for really cool people, is that there is naturally a huge focus on increasing numbers, downloads, views, likes, shares, comments, subscribers. Right? Just like the numbers keep growing, that means we're successful. That means we're making an impact. That means that money's coming in the bank. That's what our brains are trained to think. As show hosts, as media producers, anyone who works in marketing or advertising, we're so focused on accumulation of these metrics. And understandably, we have to pay attention to metrics to know what's going on. Is anyone hearing the show? Is anyone watching the show? We have to use metrics to kind of gauge some part of feedback. But what has happened, I think, over the last 10 years, and you can probably apply this to anything in your life, especially social media and any kind of online industry, is that our obsession with accumulation of these ethereal numbers that don't actually represent anything tangible can become the number one thing we seek. And it can point us in the wrong direction and help us make shows that are not our best shows. So let me unpack this a little bit and give you some real life examples. I've worked with a lot of personal brands, coaches, consultants, speakers, authors who have thriving businesses, who have large social media followings, and they create podcasts and YouTube shows so that they can reach more people with their work, their message, their impact than they could one-on-one or through their paid programs or offerings. And of course, a really great byproduct of that is that they market their businesses and they get shared with more people and more people discover them. And that, of course, helps them find their ideal audience. And those people, will buy their stuff when they're ready to. But there is an unfortunate trend that when those personal brands that I've worked with get too focused on accumulating metrics, vanity metrics, especially like we hit 1 million downloads, our show just made it into the top 1% of podcasts globally, then they start to think like, oh, that's all that matters. Like, that's something I can focus on. That's something I can grow. That's something I can control. And of course, we're human beings, so we want to control stuff. Like, that's just in our nature. What can happen, and I've seen this happen, is that we can get too focused on accumulating metrics and you're not focused enough on making good content that serves your audience. The show can really lose its soul and its passion and its fire and its quality, and everything can start to slide pretty quickly, but sometimes it takes a while. And I've had this conversation with many show hosts. They've been, going at their show for a few years. Their numbers have risen and risen and risen. And then they'll talk to me and be like, I feel burned out and I don't feel like I'm doing enough. And I don't know how much more I can do. And I don't know what the meaning and the return on investment of this show is anymore. And you may be like, well, how's that possible if all their numbers are going up? Numbers, as you know, accumulation of anything doesn't create happiness, fulfillment, joy, satisfaction. It just means there's more. And you might have realized as a show host that more attention is not always a feel-good experience. Sometimes it's great, Sometimes it's awesome. Sometimes it's not. Especially when you get to the realm of notoriety that you attract haters and trolls. That's a natural byproduct. And you start getting a lot of unwanted attention, and you start accumulating a lot of unwanted comments and a lot of unwanted trolling. So I want to shift to the second part of this quote that I have been thinking about ever since I read it. What's abundance then? If accumulation is not the same thing as abundance, and any self-help guru will tell you we're all about abundance. Everyone wants abundance. Abundance meditations, abundance mantras, abundance is infinite, right? You've heard it because it's like a really buzzy principle that tons of people coach on. So what's abundance when it comes to being a show host? Like, what's the difference? I think abundance shows up for a show host like quality of audience, loyalty of listeners, word of mouth marketing, people who watch your show telling all their friends about it because they liked it so much. That's called free marketing, and it's the best kind. It looks like peace of mind. It looks like truth telling. Like you feel confident and grounded enough and supported enough to like tell the truth about whatever your thing is. I think it looks like sustainability. Abundance is sustainable. Like you can keep creating and generating because you've found a flow that like nourishes you as much as it takes from you, or hopefully nourishes you more than it takes from you. That to me is what abundance looks like as a show host. And yes, dollars come in and revenue from ads and increased sales in your programs and more people watching your stuff and telling their friends and buying your book and wanting to book you for a speaking gig. Yes, that's totally part of abundance. But I think the more important thing for show hosts to understand as we kind of enter this new chapter of media creation that's going to be much more involving artificial intelligence and automation and the ability to like create more than we ever have. If we are only focused on accumulation, it will just suck our souls. And it already has in a lot of ways. But if we're focused on abundance and how do we create that and what does that look like? And you'll have your own definition, like that will be unique to you, what abundance looks like for you in your show. Maybe it's an abundance of amazing relationships that come out of your show. Maybe it's an abundance of conversations with your audience or email responses. That's the kind of stuff that you can focus on that will actually lead you to the goal you most desire versus focusing on accumulation of metrics, which tends to lead to, your soul being sucked out of your body eventually by the powers that be in the advertising and marketing world. So on that cheery note, I'm going to leave you with that thought today. This is more of an abstract philosophical video, but I think it's essential to do a check-in every once in a while with yourself, especially if you're a media host, and be like, am I focused on abundance or am I focused on accumulation? And is there anything that I need to tweak? Okay, be sure to subscribe to our channel. I have new videos for you every week in this series, specifically for show hosts of personal brand shows. You can always contact me directly if you have questions, you want to work with Worthville Media. You can leave comments in the video if you want me to answer more questions you might have. Abundance for me on this YouTube channel looks like comments and having dialogue and understanding how I can serve you better. So I will see you in the next video.